Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom Into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
All right, we're going to get started here in just a few seconds. And Kim, I'll throw it to you once I welcome everybody. Let me welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Ian Blackburn. I'm the host of Zoom Into Wine, and we continue our wine education pursuits at learnaboutwine.com, and we're all over the place at merchantofwine.com. So I just want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. We've got guests from all over the place joining us, and really excited to do these virtual visits. We can get some awesome wine personalities together from all over the place and really enjoy each other's company and expertise and insights. And we've got three great winemakers on the Zoom tonight, and really we're going to be studying an amazing wine region that is Monterey. And we have the director of the Monterey Vintners Association with us tonight, Kim Stemler. And hello, Kim. How are you doing?
Great, Ian, and everybody else. Really glad to be here. Thank you for having us in your home or wherever you are.
Well, we are very pleased to be able to learn about this appellation, taste some great wines. If you join our Zooms, because we are on multiple platforms here, some people are just watching tonight, but if you join our Zooms, we could actually send you the wine, and a lot of the time it actually makes it to your house. At some point in time that'll continue to improve, but we are working with UPS and GLS, and we're at the mercy of the delivery gods.
Yeah.
But did everybody in our audience tonight get their wine? We've got a great audience. I want to thank you guys for joining us. Tasha, thank you. Melvin J. Christopher, how you doing? Christopher Sawyer, good to have you on the Zoom, buddy. Olivia, thank you. You made it. Good to see you. We have our friend Setsuko zooming in from Japan, and Sandra, thank you for being there. Robert Baker, hello, sir. Good to see you, buddy. Sabrine, winemaker Sabrine, and Casey, how are you? Good to have you all. A really nice crowd, and we'll have a few more joining us here, I'm sure, in a few more minutes. But Kim, why don't I hand you the show here, and you can go right into the PowerPoint and introduce who some of our wineries are going to be tonight, because we've got a really nice lineup.
Okay. I'm still disabled.
Are you? Let me. I think I have to check this box. It says make host, and there you go.
There we go.
You are the one now.
Thank you.
And if anybody has any questions, there's a chat box. We love to use that, and you can have fun with your virtual backgrounds and filter, add a little beret to your face, whatever you like to do with your virtual backgrounds. But,
whatever you like to do.
Yeah.
So hopefully you have in front of you three wines tonight. The first is the 2018 Sansaba Vineyard Pinot Noir. And I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just going to tell you what you have, and we'll have the winemakers talk about them afterwards. Then you have the Bernardus 2017, Estate Cab. And then the Scheid Vineyards 2015 Claret Reserve. So enjoy those, and you'll be hearing, as I said, from the winemakers in a bit. So first, though, let's fly over Monterey County a little bit.
All
So
right.
Monterey County, Monterey wine country, whatever you want to call it, is a very diverse, beautiful, abundant place. Many of us that live there know that we could really just stay there. We can grow our own food. We can grow our own wine. We can raise our own cows. We can fish all we want. Really, it could be its own self-sustaining island, and we would be totally fine. So let's talk about history. So what I want to do is give you a little historic context of how Monterey wine country got into wine. And the first grapes, of course, who spread wine across the world? It's religion. Wine is a religion, right? It's part of almost every religion. And So the first grapes were planted by the Franciscan monks in the 1700s. Some say they know where those vineyards are still. I have not seen any proof that we still have those vineyards, but we do have really old historic vineyards that are in existence today. And can anyone in chat, can you guess where that might be? Did I just mess up the share?
No, you're good. Well, the share's gone, but that's okay. You can bring it back.
Okay, hold on. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. I thought you were being dramatic. You wanted us to go to chat and put in where.
I want you to go to chat and tell me where. This is where I have trouble. So where do you think? And somebody might have to tell me, because I'm having trouble seeing chat at the same time I have my presentation.
Yeah, I understand.
Where we
Chat box.
You want to know where? You want to know where we think the vineyard is?
Yeah. Where's? Oh, yes. Denise has it. So that's one of the oldest vineyards. In 1919, these two French guys came to Monterey County.
Now, Denise said Chalone. Is that the right answer? Is that what
That is the right answer.
All right, good job, Denise.
But Bradley is also very true, because he said Carmel. So these two French guys came to Carmel Valley and to Chalone. And they said of Chalone that it reminded, and this man with the skinny legs said it reminded him of Burgundy, which is where he was from. So this man with the skinny legs is named Charles Tam. I don't know the name of the other guy. I don't know if anybody else does. But Charles Tam is sort of the famous guy. What's really cool is that this vine that is going through is somewhat a bud, it looks like it's been pruned, and it looks like it's an early spring. This is a vine that was planted in 1919. It's a Chenin Blanc vine, and they still make wine from it today. Isn't that incredible? And it's great. It's lovely. It's got volcanic soil, so it's real limestoney. It's just amazing. So Prohibition comes and wrecks the whole wine industry, unless you could pretend that you were Sacramento wine, which is what these guys actually did. So they were able to stay in business for a little while. But after that, if you don't know, we still live under Prohibition laws. It's not an easy business to be in at all. So then in the 60s, something shifted. And that was because this really cool study came out from UC Davis that talked about different climatic regions. And it was called the Winkler Scandal. And it said, hey, everybody, Monterey County is really awesome. It's equivalent to Burgundy, and you should go plant your grapes there. So that's what happened. We went from 2,500 acres at the beginning of the 1970s. So this was in the 60s. At the beginning of the 1970s, 2,500 acres to 25,000 acres at the end of the 70s. So the two big houses that are still in business today is Marisu and Wente. They really started here in that next wave in the 1960s. And then quickly, so many others came along. And then in the 70s, we added places like Scheid. The Scheid family came in. So there were also, vineyards are businesses, wineries are businesses. So in the 1970s, it was really advantageous to plant vineyards. So you will see throughout actually the US and especially California, a boom in vineyards in the 1970s. And that's because of the tax benefits. Yeah, I know, it's pretty interesting. Okay, so, sorry, I have to move my chat screen. Actually, I'm on Zoom all day long and I'm still having trouble.
Well,
so we have around 225 distinct vineyards and about 82 wineries, 75 of them which are legitimate. Okay, so now I want you to guess which wine region we have the closest cultivated acres to. Do you think it's Lodi? And write it in chat. Do you think it's Lodi, Sonoma, or Napa?
Anybody in our distinguished panel want to jump in there with a guess? It's okay to be wrong.
Do you guys know? No. You know what happens? They don't often know the comparisons because I'm the one that has to compare. So it's not Olivia. Yay! It's actually Napa. So Napa and Monterey County go back and forth between 45, 46,000, 44,000 acres. Every year we go back and forth in size. Sonoma and Lodi grow more, cultivate more grapes than both Napa. They're around 68,000. Lodi is very big. It's around 125,000. They're actually the biggest in terms of cultivated acres. So very good, Olivia. Thank you. There we go. So what about, are we ready to do chat again? Okay, so let's talk about what grapes, when you think of Monterey County, what grapes do you think about? What do you think are the top 3 grapes grown? Winemakers, you're allowed to write if you dare. We still sharing the screen?
Yep, screen still looks good. And
okay, good.
Guesses in the chat box. We've got guesses like myself guessing Chard, Pinot, and my third guess was Merlot.
Ooh. For some reason I don't see oh, there it is. Okay. Riesling. Good. Syrah. Okay, Denise, did you read my notes? It's actually Chard first, although Pinot brings in more value. But some years, as a county, we actually cultivate the most Chardonnay in the state.
Makes sense.
And then Pinot, although as I said, Pinot has more, our Pinot crop value is much higher than our Chardonnay crop value. And then Cab is third. So often you don't think of Monterey County as a warmer growing region, but if you think about it, Paso is only like 12 to 15 miles south of the Monterey border. And all the way down to that marriage of Slow and Monterey, you see grapes grown the whole way, and they're all Monterey grapes. So we actually grow hot weather grapes as well. And then, and this is just an example of one of our wineries. Okay. So where we're different from other coastal regions is that with all coastal regions, and even regions that are not coastal but are influenced by the ocean, really in Monterey, the ocean is definitely one of our winemakers. And we have the deepest submarine canyon off of the coast of the Americas, on the west coast of the Americas. It's 2 miles deep, 70 miles long. We like to call it the Blue Grand Canyon because it's actually the same size as the Grand Canyon. If you just put the Grand Canyon in the Monterey Bay, you would have it. And Denise knows exactly what happens then. We get this upswelling of cold water from 2 miles deep down where they're still discovering animals that live there. And then it hits the warm air that's coming up from south and even inland. And what happens is it does 2 things. It creates fog on the coast, and then it pulls wind down the valley. So we have trees in our growing region that grow like this. They don't grow like this. They just grow like this. If you go past Scheid's vineyards, like in Greenfield, the trees on the roads grow like this, the big trees. So, and that's all because of the coast. And that is actually really far away from the coast. So we're that influenced by the coast. And here you can see where that big Grand Canyon is. If you have any questions, let me know. We have 9 AVAs in Monterey County. The most famous is Santa Lucia Highlands, I would say. The Monterey AVA, which some of our wines are from today, and they'll talk more about it, actually includes 5 other AVAs. So happy to talk about the AVAs later, but honestly, I would rather really quickly tell you how wonderful we are, how fun it is to live in Monterey County, and then turn it over to the winemakers. So one of the really special things about Monterey County is that actually we're not all about wine. Because it's so diverse, because it's so beautiful, there's tons of stuff that pairs with Monterey wines. So we have lots of ocean, and bay activities. We have cycling. We have so much golf right on the ocean. That's Pebble Beach. And then, of course, our animals absolutely adore our Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary. So now what I'd like to do is turn it over to the really important people, because I'm clearly not that important. And I'm going to introduce Submarine Canyon. She is the winemaker for Wrath. And delighted that you're a female winemaker, Submarine. And I'll turn it over to you, okay?
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you, Kim. Do you guys see me okay?
Yes.
Hold on, let me.
I'm gonna spotlight you for everybody now.
Oh, okay, because I just don't see. I don't see me. Okay. I just want to make sure I'm showing the camera the right thing.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's looking good. I can see the bottle.
Okay, so you can. Okay, so this is what you see the image there, and hopefully you all have this. I'm gonna just say a few things about Wrath and our property, Sansaba Vineyard, which is our home ranch. Many of you who know Wrath also know that we make a lot of wines from the Santa Lucia Highlands and other vineyards. We also have our home ranch, which is about 72 acres. It's 68 planted. And we have Pinot, Chard, Sauv Blanc, Syrah, and a little bit of Falanghina there, which is an Italian white varietal. And that's my old assistant winemaker, Kyle, right there. And we actually, in this picture, we're actually processing Falanghina because we make it in these dolio, these clay dolio. And one of the reasons why we have the dolio is because Michael Thomas, who is the owner of Wrath, is actually an archaeologist. He has a PhD in art history and I think he has one dig still going in Italy. I think they get like a 20-year license in Italy to dig in one spot. And he actually has a Pompeii site, which is fascinating because it's actually, they found out that it was basically a wine distribution site. And they can tell that by the containers and the pips, and actually these flatbed cart ruts where they're pretty sure that they would just sort of back up a flatbed cart with a cowhide on it, fill it like a bladder with wine, and then ship it, cart it down the hill to the boats in the water. It's amazing. Spectator did an article on him, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. And I loved it because it wasn't about wine. It was about what he does, which is totally cool stuff. Digging up stuff in the ground that's really, really old. So anyway, that's Michael. He actually is working on a museum right now in Texas. So he does duty everywhere. He's in Italy, he's in Texas, he's out here with us. So the 18, we'll talk a little bit about how we treat this wine and what this wine is. This wine is our barrel select. So we ferment all of our clones separately of Pinot Noir, and then we lay all the barrels out. And the first wine that we pick is for this. We pick the best barrels. They go into this. It tends to be a little bit higher in new oak, because I think when you're scoring barrels, which is what we do, we score barrels. We take about a day and a half to score. You tend to lean toward the oaky. We always try to make it in the 30 to 35% new French oak range. We don't want to get too much higher than that. Some years it's 40, but it is all the clones, because there's always a favorite barrel in each clone selection. So it's 667, 777, 115, 828, Pomard 4, and Swan. So it's all of those clones. Typically it winds up being a little bit more 828 and Pomard 4. It just depends on the year. But this wine, we also do for this wine, we do 20% whole cluster, which means I leave the stems on for 20% of everything. Actually, that's our baseline for all of our reds. We do 20% what I call stem inclusion, whole cluster inclusion. And what we get from that is, thank you guys. What we get from that is a little bit of some tannin and some spiciness. And because there's some phenolics in the stem as well. The one thing you have to worry about is there's also a lot of potassium in the stems. And when you have potassium, it's a very positive thing, and it attaches to acid. So you have to be careful, because you have to make sure you're picking at the right. It's taken me a long time, and I feel like I conquer a lot of challenges every year, and I get better at my job every year. And I know I'm not going to get fired. At least I hope I'm not going to get fired. But at some point you have the confidence to sort of chip away at these ideas that you want to experiment with. And we experiment a lot at Wrath. It definitely has, it gets some of that mushroom component. Somebody said it has mushroom component from Pomard 4, probably. We get some of that umami forest floor characteristic from pomard for. But yeah, we do 20% whole cluster, and we're always trying to watch the balance of richness and the balance of acidity. The other thing you might notice in this is one of my favorite coopers is Hermitage. I like them because it's not as much vanillin, it's not as much vanilla or cinnamates. I don't get as much cinnamon and vanilla. I get more of the spicy, what I call the mouth-numbing baker spice. I get clove, nutmeg, which is eugenol, and sort of a Szechuan peppercorn consistency I get from Hermitage barrels. And the other thing I love about Hermitage barrels is usually when they've been used for 1 year, you get a lot of expression from them, which is nice. It's sort of like getting bang for your buck. You know, I actually get a lot of expression from a 2-year-old Hermitage barrel. We also use other coopers. Terranceau and Ramon are probably our other two that we use the most of. I like to use my coopers sort of like I use my clones. I use it like a chef picking spices off a rack. You know, that's what gives us versatility in terms of adding a little bit of this and adding a little bit of that. We will score all these barrels. We pick our Sansaba, and then the rest sort of falls into its own, because we also make clonal wines from the same barrel. So the clonal divisions of wines. And I think right now the count of wines that I make, Pinots that I make for Wrath, is 9. I'm trying to count them in my head. And I think the total number of SKUs we have is 24 or something like that. So we do a lot of experiments, and we try not to make a new SKU every year because the marketing team hates us when we do that. But when you're doing all these experiments, it's kind of fun when you taste something that's so unique that you think it should be its own wine. And that's how we have 100% whole cluster wine we make because we did that experiment, and so on and so on. You know, we do try to do 4 to 5 experiments a year, and some of them become blenders and some of them make their own wine. Oh, I only see part of your question, Kim. Oh, there you are.
Oh no.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Everybody else, because winemakers often say SKUs, like you guys say it, and I thought, I wonder if everybody knows what you're talking about when you say SKU, right. Because that is what winemakers say. You don't want to make a new SKU every year. And I just thought,
because it's just one more thing they have to sell. So
yeah, but I wonder if everybody knows like that. That's the way the industry refers to it. But I don't know if everybody knows when you said, I don't want to make another SKU, what does that mean?
Right. We don't want to, because the marketing team's going to hate it if they have another wine to sell. It's its own wine.
Another wine, right.
Yeah, another wine. Yeah. And the one thing I love, Ian mentioned something about how complex it is for a young wine. What I love about, we're actually coming to a point where we've, Wrath as a brand, although Sansaba Vineyard's been around since the early 70s, that vineyard that you're looking at now where the property is. And it was originally planted in Cab and Merlot back in the 70s, because a lot of people did that because Cab was king. Now it's almost all, it's all Pinot Chardonnay, a little bit of Syrah, a little bit of Falangina, and some Sauv Blanc. But that, no, I completely forgot what my point was. Oh, Ian was saying something about it being young. The one thing I love about using the stem is I feel like the wines age a little better when we use stem, and I think you get more pretty phenolics later. The stem component to me, especially in our Ex Vitae, which is 100% whole cluster wine, it sort of turns into this Earl Grey bergamot component. Sure. Which is really pretty. It becomes a really pretty wine as it ages. So it changes a lot.
Yeah. No, this has got great balance between that fruit and that stemmy component. I think it's, some wines go like your bigger wine, the, what did you call it? The
Ex Vitae.
Ex Vitae.
Yeah.
And so that probably, in its 2018 state of mind isn't quite ready to show. And needs a little bit more time in the cellar, where this one's got really good balance between that fruit and that spice, but you can also tell there's more that's going to be unlocked.
Yeah, we're starting to pull, because we're up to, like I was saying, the vineyard's been around, but Wrath has only been around for 10 years. We're doing our 10-year anniversary, and we're going to be doing a library lunch, which should be really interesting. We tasted through some of the library, and I was just so impressed. I mean, not that I'm here to pat myself on the back too hard, but some wines that tend to lean toward high pH, some blends tend to lean higher in pH. You worry about them aging, and I was just so impressed by the way these wines are aging, and I look forward to tasting the same wines in 15 or 20 years. Should be interesting.
Yeah, Sabrine, if you don't mind, I'm Chris Sawyer, the sommelier and wine writer. Nice to see you, and I love these Wrath wines. I always have since you guys started, 10 years ago. What I found about this wine is how much more generous it becomes the more I've had it in the glass. It helps to have a big glass, and I asked my wife to bring me down I didn't realize I didn't have a nice Burgundy glass down here in the cellar, but it sure helps. It's actually gotten bigger.
Yeah.
The tannins are a little bit more expressive and chewy, so maybe if I would have started the meal, we would have had a really amazing pomegranate salad or something like that with a little bit of goat cheese in it with it. And now I think I'm fine going into some big pork dish right now, and maybe get me some risotto with mushrooms, and I'm probably going to be okay, with this. But I was going to ask you one question. You mentioned the 828 clone, which I have a fascination for. Is it in fact the erect 828, the faux 828 that you have? There's two versions of 828. There's the one that came through Dijon, and then there was the one that was snuck in, and it's the one where the cluster comes out at you instead of dropping.
No, all of our stuff is newly planted on new grape. I mean, the 828 that we have, they're not new. I mean, I keep saying that because they were there when I got there. I keep thinking it was yesterday, but it was 17 years ago. So they were actually 2-year-olds then. So they're 19 years old, and they all came through FPS. Everything we have through UC Davis FPS. So
okay, they're very bizarre if you see them.
No sneaking around.
Where the clusters come out at you. Very strange.
Yes, I sourced some of that stuff from up on the bench from other people. Yeah.
Great.
Cool. Good question there, Chris. You got the Pinot, and any other questions before we say hi to Rob?
Well, actually, if you can just ask you to, Sabrine, where exactly is it located? Are we in, Greenfield, or where are we as far as the vineyard?
We're in Soledad. We're on the west side of the Salinas Valley, right below. So literally, if you look at the bottle, that cliff on the right-hand side in the image, the picture, is the backside is the north end of Doctors, Hans Doctors.
Okay.
And then above us is on the bench is Bianchi Bench, which I believe is now run by Constellation. And then, so we're between Gonzales. We're on the west side, just west of the prison.
Okay.
In Soledad.
That's a good way of saying it. Okay, thanks.
I like it.
Right, fantastic. Thank you very much. And
absolutely.
And you guys are able to be open right now to receive visitors if they're able to come, or is it appointment?
Yes, we are. We have a big outdoor. If you looked at that picture over the pond, there's a big outdoor patio. And right now, our county is open 25% inside. So all that seating outside is a big patio above the pond. It's beautiful out there.
And one more question. If guests want to buy these wines, they buy them directly from you. What is the cost of the Pinot that we're tasting tonight?
I always hate that question because I always have to think about it. I believe it's $49.
Okay, cool. Well, I thank you very much for being involved, and it's always great to have Wrath involved in any presentation on Monterey County for sure. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
Kim, we're going to move now to Bernardus, and I believe Rob's going to be presenting, or does Rob have other guests on the Zoom with us too?
Yes, it is me tonight.
All right.
Okay.
Rob, let me find you. Keep talking.
I am right here.
Okay, let's go for it there, buddy.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you guys again for joining and supporting Ian and his great companies, and also for Monterey County Wines. And thank you, Miss Sabrine. I don't work for Wrath or get commission, but I love the wines, and you're a wonderful person. So it's good to see you here. So long story short, if you don't know Bernardus, we started in 1990. We're owned by a gentleman who passed not too long ago, Mr. Bernardus Pond. He was on his boat going around past Big Sur. He's Dutch, Netherlands family. And he saw Pebble Beach, Stillwater, Monterey, and he's like, where are we? What is this? He'd obviously traveled the world, and he fell in love with Monterey County. This was at a time when obviously there were people in Santa Lucia Highlands. This would have been in the mid to late 80s. There were grapes obviously all over Monterey County, but all of his friends across the US and in Europe were like, no, you have to go up to Napa. And he goes, well, I understand that's great wine, but that's not what I fell in love with. So he ended up back in an area it's back in Carmel Valley. So if you're in Big Sur and go up and over the range, Carmel Valley is one of the, unless you go deep south into Monterey County, it's one of the, what we'll call the warm areas. So if you're at Pebble Beach or in Salinas, if you're in the mid 60s, we could be mid 80s to mid 90s, except for extreme south Monterey, one of the few places that people attempt to grow Cabernet Franc, Malbec in our area. Monterey is, for good reason, known for Chardonnay, Pinot Noir. But Mr. Pond was like, well, no, I'm a Claret. I'm a Bordeaux guy. I want to plant, Cab Merlot, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, Malbec. So they find an area called Kashawa, which is in the Carmel Valley AVA. I think there's only 5 producers. The other 4 are extremely small. We do about 50,000 cases a year. And so he planted, they did everything on own rootstock. Back in the day, whoever he spoke with about planting the vineyard, it's about 280 acres, but we only planted about 60. And these days we're down to only using about 30 acres of that. So you have a rare treat tonight. We have not made a straight Cabernet Sauvignon since I think it was 2002. Everything goes into the Bordeaux blend. And we all kind of decided, we do, just for kind of the breakdown, out of our 50,000 cases, 98% of that wine is Chardonnay, Pinot from Santa Lucia Highlands, and a little bit from Arroyo Seco, and then Sauvignon Blanc. But still, his namesake and why he started our winery was for the Cabernet blend, which is a very challenging project in Monterey. Mm-hmm. We decided that Cabernet, there was 2 blocks within our acreage that did not have the tannic structure for the Bordeaux blend, which we just released our 2013 and 14 vintage. This had a little bit more fruit forward driven. The alcohol was still, 12.5 to 13.5. And we're like, I think it's time to try something different. We usually do 2 years in French oak, 3 to 4 years in bottle for the blend. But these 2 blocks were actually showing fruit as if it came from an ultra ripe zone, I'll call it. He put in 5% Merlot, and I think we accidentally, I spilled in some Petit Syrah, which is, I don't think, written anywhere. And it really, it showed a prettier style wine. So instead of doing our typical fermentation, we did cold fermentation, which on a cab is pretty rare. And usually it's French oak, half new, half 1 year old. This was half stainless. And then the other half was put into 1 year old Nadalier barrels. So for us, and we also went into screw cap, which we'd never put Cabernet, it was always cork closure. So we wanted to try to show, I won't say a riper style, but a little more fruit forward style. At the first vintage we did, since that was this 2017, we only did 700 cases. So even for myself in our distribution, it's pretty much, winery only and for this event as well. So it's definitely a rare treat. So it turned out we loved it, and the Dutch, which obviously the ownership and the family loved it. So 2019, we did the exact same thing with 1 small block. We did 200 cases of Merlot, which is also from the vineyard. If some of you are familiar with us from the past, the owner's full name was Bernardus Marinus Pond, and the Bordeaux blend was Marinus. That's his middle name. Most people say, oh, you're Bernardus Marinus, but he's Dutch, not French. So we'll still take it if you talk about us. It's a nice thing, but he's a Dutch man, and his family, they're the ones that brought the Volkswagen to the US. So if you or your uncles or your friends ever had the Volkswagen Bug, it was due to his father, and he's considered, or his father was considered the grandfather of the bus. he on a bar napkin, which is in, if you ever go to the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, next to some of the Van Goghs and Monets, there's a bar napkin. I'm sure they were drinking Heineken, just for good old Dutch. And he drew a rectangle with 2 circles and said, you need to turn the bug into this. And that became the bust. And the Dutch family were so very excited because this year and next year is the return of the bust. It'll make Tesla look like a non-electric jalopy, we'll say. Extremely Jetson high-tech driven. So it's I've been at the winery 23 years now. Everything from helping our head winemaker Dean to dealing with the 27 SKUs, as Submarine mentioned. So I've kind of done it all there. It's 23 years. I moved from Memphis. My family had a small winery and on the Mississippi River. Please don't drink the wine. It's extremely sweet. But yeah, this tonight was a great treat. Ian's been a longtime friend and supporter. And to have this cab, which is kind of a new project for us, and a beautiful wine that you don't see much cab, especially from outside South County.
It's drinking great too, by the way.
Thank you.
I love the little insert of Petite Syrah, maybe just a little splash.
Just a splash.
Just a splash.
Yeah,
Well, you know, I was going to say, Robert, what I like so much about it is the body and texture of it. I mean, it's medium body to medium to full, you know, not full. And so I think that it's really approachable. It tastes exactly like Cabernet Sauvignon tastes. And it's so food friendly. And one thing you did not mention about Bernardus that's probably just as well known to a lot of people, especially tourists, is the Great Bernardus Lodge, which is really one of the great destinations of California, if you ask me, in Carmel Valley, in the Carmel Village, more like. I've met Mr. Pond a number of times before he passed away, and I had great times having lunch with him there. And I mean, the man was very passionate about food and wine. And I think that this is a really great opening kind of Cabernet. I mean, there's people out there that just drink Cabernet, and we try to keep getting them to drink more Pinot and Syrah and everything, but they're hell bent on Cabernet, but they need this too, you know? And I think that's a really interesting thing. And I think that the other thing that I would just say about this is when you really look at Colchagua Valley and where it is, it's really not that different than where, you know, the left bank of Bordeaux is from the ocean. Now, if you really look at it, it's only about 10 miles from the ocean in Bordeaux. And you go, well, I thought Napa Valley is what it looks like. No. Napa Valley and Bordeaux do not look anything alike. It's actually a coastal region. And obviously they're a little bit warmer there because it's the Atlantic Ocean versus the Pacific Ocean. But I think that that's something that's very special about it. And that's why I get a lot of great natural acidity out of this wine, which really makes it kind of pop in the mouth. And I think that's a fantastic job to really just put it by itself. I mean, the Bernardus blend is so amazing, but this just tastes like cab, and I think it's fantastic.
Thank you. Our first attempts at this, a couple were, because when I started there, we were working with 97 Marinas, and we had a couple of years of the Cabernet, and it was, as a lot of us know that work and live here, the past, as Sabrine mentioned as well, you know, everybody just planted Cab and Merlot and not what they should have. That was kind of our struggle to bring out a Cabernet for Monterey, because everybody, you know, unless they're under 30 with, you know, the new world, we'll call it, they were all just like, oh, please don't. Like, it's going to be green, even if it's, and it just, the negativity towards the old school Monterey Cab, especially, you know, way back, it still exists, that people think that. So I was like, if we can find a way, because these grapes, which is my first year there, I thought they were joking me. Is it like, no, we won't harvest the Marinus grapes until after Thanksgiving. And I'm just like, I was like, oh, okay, I got you. I'm waiting for them to tell me, like, oh, no, we need to go tomorrow. And they're like, no, we're serious. And then some years we've not finished picking Marinus until after the 1st of January. And it still is, you know, barely coming in at 14%. And phenologically, it's still getting to ripeness. It's definitely not over. So this project, treating it, not in the way we do Marinus, in the stainless steel and cooler temperatures, a longer fermentation. It really allowed it to show, which we had never tried previous, or even the previous two winemakers. It was really kind of a beautiful thing to see that Kashawa can bring out some Cabernet, like Marinus, even the 14, which is just released. It still needs, maybe a triple decant and, a little bit of time in the glass, which we're not worried about it 30 years from now. But as we know, people want, where's your 2021 cab? And it's like, no, it's not here. So it's been a great thing to show. And the Merlot actually showed the same style. It still had almost a glistenery texture that we didn't think was possible from where we are. So I'm glad you enjoy, and it's great to see you, Chris, as well. It's been a while.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. And just also the other thing about it is there's a real distinctive cherry cola note in here too that's really great, and it just kind of really is popping there. And I think that also the thing about the valley that's so interesting is you really have to drive to the end of the valley to get to Kolchawa. And then if you keep going, you end up going the back road to Greenfield, which is the craziest drive ever. If you're a motorcyclist, really smart. If you're a car driver, watch out.
Yeah, true. And thank you about the Bernardus Lodge mention. The great thing about Mr. Pond was his friends told him, it's like, well, where do you stay? Where do you eat? And he was like, well, maybe we should build a world-class restaurant with rooms. And so he still considered he didn't own a resort or hotel. He owned an amazing restaurant with rooms. So you go eat, 6 hours, lunch, go take a nap, come back to dinner. He goes, it's not a hotel. It's a restaurant with rooms. So he was an amazing man. And my thing after having been there, for over 20 years was he had no children, but he was like, this winery will always stay Dutch. It will always stay independent. So he had it set up that Mr. Robert van der Wallen, another Dutch gentleman, was going to take us over, and he did. And the gentleman, all he said was, are you happy? Do you need any changes? And it was that simple. And so we stay Dutch and we stay independent. And he said, you guys, do what you do. We're lucky to have had our head winemaker, Dean DeKorth. Now he's been there, I guess, 16 or 17 years. So it's a beautiful family. And I just being and living in Monterey County and watching the progression of especially, all the different areas from Arroyo Seco to Santa Lucia Highlands to South County. It's pretty amazing because, we make, I think we're at 9 or 10 different Pinots, predominantly Santa Lucia, and then Chardonnay and Arroyo Seco. So the county, the diversity is pretty amazing. And I think people are starting to know that, which is great.
Rob, we're about out of time, but Kim, can you slide back to the first slide with the Bernardus label there? Isn't that pawn shield there also? There's something about Porsche with that shield too, right?
Yes. So basically, the only, job Mr. Pond had was he raced. He was the team leader for Holland Porsche. And if you saw the Matt Damon movie Ford vs. Ferrari, Mr. Pond actually won Le Mans 2 years. It wasn't in the top class, although he never said that it was not. We had to look it up. But he won that 2 years, and that was his family was actually the first family, because of the Volkswagen situation, given the rights to distribute Porsche outside of Germany. So that was the family crest melded with the Porsche situation, and they're in honor of Mr. Pond and his career racing with Porsche. They're coming out with a 911 Turbo Pond edition. I think they're only making 20, which will stay in Germany and Holland. But it's pretty remarkable.
I have to leave the Zoom now to go get one of those, I'm sure.
Yes, exactly. Sign me up, please.
But that's awesome. What it sounds like, just a fascinating man, and really a great journey.
And if you love golf, right before he passed, I forget to tell, if you're ever in Amsterdam and want to take an hour-and-a-half drive, we have Bernardus Golf, which is a golf course. We host the Dutch Open, which is, I guess, the KLM Open, starting, well, I guess in theory this year. So it's pretty exciting that they're keeping his name and the family going.
Far out. Well,
yep.
story. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Good to see you, Robert.
Good to see you, Chris.
So what's interesting is we've had winemakers, these two last brands have had winemakers that have been with them for a really long time. And actually Scheid Vineyards has also had winemakers that have been with them for a really long time. But what's starting to happen now is some of those winemakers are retiring. And with that is bringing really young, vibrant winemakers into the county. And that's what we're seeing now that is just so exciting. And so it's great to introduce Casey from Scheid, who is much younger than all of us.
Don't give me that much credit.
Oh.
It would also be interesting for you to just talk about, like, quickly, in addition to the wine, about your background. And how you got into wine, because we're seeing a couple of sort of lineages of young people coming, or pathways of young people coming into wine right now. And yours is definitely one of the pathways. So please take it over and have them taste your beautiful wine as well.
All right. Well, hi, everybody. Anne, thanks for having me. Sabrine, Rob, great to speak alongside of you guys. It's an honor. I'm representing Scheid Vineyards today. And we might as well start drinking the claret and then we can talk about me later. So yeah, as Robert was talking a lot about North County, and same with Sabrine, this wine is more of a journey into South County. And as Kim was mentioning earlier about kind of, you get close to Paso and all of a sudden you can get that ripe fruit, those Bordeaux varietals. And so this wine being, Bordeaux blend classically, Cab, Merlot, Malbec, Cab Franc, Petit Verdot, is from the kind of San Lucas and Hames. That's majority of the area there. 2015 was actually a pretty cool year. So we pulled a lot of this from Hames Valley, which is right on the border of Paso. I mean, the fruit that we get there is on par. It's got the same diurnal shift. And if you're looking at this map here of our vineyard, so we got a 72-mile stretch in Monterey County, gives us a lot of versatility. So on a cool year like that, we can reach down into region 4 that you see in the bottom of the map. Whereas a lot of times this wine, the majority of it is coming from that region 3 San Lucas area. And that's what makes this county so cool and such a great place to make wine. So a lot from Hames, cool year, but we still got this wine plenty ripe. You can see 14.7 alcohol. And just like Sabrine with Wrath, this is a barrel select. So we'll basically ferment all these wines separately, open top fermenters. We're doing punch down on all these. We're not trying to get heavy extraction. We're just trying to create dense flavor. We'll ferment them separately, go to our favorite coopers, taste through everything. We have a number of different SKUs, as we talked about today, with Cab, Merlot, and plenty of other blends, but only the finest make its way down to being, and it ends up being about 30 months in oak. This one in particular, I had a bit more Hungarian than usual. We like playing with Hungarian at Scheid. Feels like it really complements, and especially that Hames Valley fruit really complements it really well. So this wine really came together and is really layered and deep in flavor. I think it's a beautiful wine. It really can showcase, not just the beautiful Pinots and Chards we make in this county, but also kind of South County and those Bordeaux varietals and how well we can grow them. And so I guess me, while we're drinking, so you can just kind of pass over what I'm saying. Look at us, look at our wind turbine. So this is a really cool accomplishment by Scheid. That's great. That wind turbine actually powers our whole facility. We produce, the Scheid Vineyards label itself is very boutique and small, even though we have about 4,000 acres of grapes that we farm. In each of those blocks, there's only certain rows that we farm very specifically for each of these varieties and varietals from each. It's very specific. So even though we're a very big operation, we have this very small specific farming for these rows. We bring in about 35,000 tons a harvest, and we've got a fairly decent sized facility, and that wind turbine powers our whole facility and the equivalent of about 125 homes in the area. So it's a really cool accomplishment that we have there, and really that wind is also kind of a staple of Monterey, and it's really great to be able to harness that and use it in such a sustainable way. And yeah, a little bit about me. I got into wine because the VP of winemaking, I went to college with his son. I competed in track and field with him at UCLA. And just a little break, we would get up to the, Paso area and help him out, and just caught the bug from there. Started working in his cellar, and I'm going to Cornell to get my master's in enology. And then Dave hired me on at Scheid and kind of worked my way up there now. And a great winemaker, Marta Krafchek, who was a big part of this wine. Her and Dave, she retired recently, and got some big shoes to fill, but happy to be a part of the team. And yeah, so it's been a great experience there at Scheid.
Nice.
This is a great wine. I just am digging on it, just how perfectly complete it is. And, I think for everyone out there, just because Ian, you're so great at wine education, since I'm a guest on this one, I'll just bring out the topic of claret and why it's called claret. So a Bordeaux blend is a Bordeaux blend. That's super Frenchy. So when it came to California and we started making these blends, we started calling them meritage. And it's not meritage, which sounds too Frenchy. It's meritage. And that's because Dan Berger, our great friend Dan Berger, the writer, decided to do a contest in the LA Times, and the guy that won said merit and heritage put together, meritage. And so that's what the American version of it. The Brits, though, who bought the most of this stuff originally, didn't want to call it anything French, so they called it claret. And that's why it's the British term for exactly the same thing. And this has got all the 5 parts in it, and it's fantastic. I mean, this has got there's a lot of layers of flavors, and you brought up Hungarian Oak, which I've got a little passion part in my heart for Hungarian Oak. And what I always get out of it is something that's very much like allspice. So it's not one thing, it's a lot of things. And so it's got that clove, and it's got that nutmeg, and it's got that cinnamon kind of touch to it, and it's got everything there, and it's actually working perfectly with each one of these varietals that's in here too. So I think that this is the fun thing, is that it's such a complete wine. And just for our magazine, which I write for a lot, which is Somm Journal and a lot of that, and every time I pass your place on my way down to Paso, or if I'm in Monterey County, I always see you guys right off the freeway. And so I'm always I always think about Scheid. It's just part of my thought pattern with Monterey. So it's great to have you on this show.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you, Christopher.
Absolutely.
Very cool, Chris. Thanks very much. Tasha, how is the wine treating you tonight?
It's very good. And a funny little interesting side note here. My former corporate job, I actually did the 401k presentations for all of Scheid Vineyard, believe it or not. So I have been to some pretty remote corners of those vineyards presenting 401k in Spanish. So that was the first thing I thought of when I saw Scheid come up.
How cool.
Fun.
Awesome.
Bradley, are you guys drinking with us tonight?
Okay.
Yes.
Hi there.
I'm
Hi.
a guest.
Oh, you're
This
the
is
guest.
good.
Yeah, so I'm Lucia from Lucy Loves Food on Instagram. Anyway, I was the one invited, and I have my dear friend Bradley.
And I made the lamb chops.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
trying to
he's
get
the
that
one who made
picture
the
up,
lamb
Bradley.
chops.
I've been trying to
Totally. I hit the jackpot.
But yeah, we love this wine. It's delicious. Really, really good.
They're all good. But
Super
wow.
like old world. I'm getting such old world vibes from it. I like it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely dabbles in a cooler climate environment.
Sure.
Parazines, but really in a pretty way. And I dig that about this wine. I think it's got just the right hint of parazines and in a balance, and it takes me to a place like Bordeaux for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think the earth and the fruit in this wine is very well balanced, which to me is, a testament to a really great wine. So
Excellent.
yeah.
Well, thanks for being on our Zoom tonight.
Thanks for having me. Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, I learned a lot.
Fantastic. Melvin J., how are things for you guys?
Having a great time. I'm a tax accountant, so any way that I can get away from doing tax returns is
Good, buddy. Good for you. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight for this wonderful exploration. Kim, I'm glad you got the slideshow, not me, because I don't think everybody understands how sensitive those slides can be when you're playing around.
I was trying to respond to Denise, and every time I touched it, it would move it. So I'm so sorry.
It would have been the same with me. Trust me. All you got to do is like bump the mouse, and that slide would change.
So, sorry about that bouncing around, but
no, but you did a great job, and I loved watching your face every time it would. Every time it would change, you'd be like, ah!
So if I can just mention, I just think it was nice that we, because typically we think Chardonnay and Pinot, and I think it was really great that we did Pinot, Cab, and Claret tonight. Just to know that we have that versatility in Monterey County. So
Kim, I completely agree with you, Kim. I judge a lot of wine competitions. Ian and I judged the San Francisco International. I just judged the San Francisco Chronicle, and it's so fun when Monterey wins in other categories. Then gets gold medals in these categories that people don't really think about them as being. And I think you really have to investigate Monterey in a deeper way and really get into it and drive those crazy back roads and find out why they call Greenfield, what Greenfield potatoes are, because that's a whole cult thing that's super cool if you know what it is, about the water rolling in the channels there and how the rocks roll and you can hear them, and it's like super crazy stuff, and I think that, as far as diversity goes, and you got to know which way to open your door when you get out of a car, in the late afternoon, because if you don't, you're going to push your door open or maybe even have your hand slammed in it, because that's how strong these winds are. And I think that you have to go there to really find it out. And I think that your organization is such a great organization. And I still have the hat. I mean, it's like probably 20 years old. It was called Monterey Focus. And it was really one of the first things that you guys ever did, where you brought me and other writers in there together. And I mean, we were up at Talbot, we were at Chalone with Dan Carlson, and we were up in the Santa Lucia Highlands. And I feel like that was such a learning experience for me that really changed my life. And it just, when I judge the Central Coast wines and everything, and when you guys win so well, it just makes me so happy, for everything that goes on there. And I always look forward to my next visit.
Thank you. I think we're such a modest region. I think the people are very modest. I'd love to see, Casey and Rob and Sabrine. I just, being in wine, I just think we're laid back, we're accessible, we're modest. We're like even Mr. Pond, the very wealthy, accomplished man, was really accessible and nice and kind, and that is and Scheid. These wineries are so generous. I don't think if you don't really hang out with them, you don't know how generous they are. Or Tasha, you were saying, like, explaining the 401k to all the vineyard workers, farm workers, 401k. That doesn't happen that often. So it's a very generous community. It is a very modest community that is doing great stuff with wine. And I'm just,
just on that note, I've always said that I feel like these guys aren't my competitors, they're my collaborators. And if I didn't have these guys helping me, I would have been stuck in a vineyard in the forklift, stuck still from 15 years ago, 17 years ago, I would call somebody, or I'd go down to Kirk Williams and be like, get the backhoe, I need to get out.
Really cool. Sabrine, do you I don't know if we have time, Ian, for Sabrine to mention scratch. Probably not.
Oh, go for it.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay. I have my own little project I started in 2010, but I didn't have a tasting room until, in fact, I was winding my brand down 4 years ago. And then I got an opportunity to have a small tasting room in Carmel. which allowed me a stepping stone. And I do some wines that I do for Wrath. I try not to do the same stuff I do for Wrath and my other clients. I do 2 sparklings, dry Riesling from Arroyo Seco. The sparklings both come from Wrath's property, Sansaba Vineyard. Arroyo Seco Riesling, Grenache from Ventana's property. I consulted for them. I love that Grenache off that property. It's amazing. It's from the Greenfield potatoes, as we were talking about. And then I do a Santa Cruz Mountains cab and 2 Pinots. I do a KW Pinot and a Buchanugan Pinot, and probably also some Buchanugan Marsan Roussan this year. I have a new tasting room in Carmel Valley, and it's like a million times bigger than my little 8 seats I had in Carmel. So I'm gonna have to make some more wine, but I'm having a lot of fun. I try to do stuff differently. So I try to do more whole cluster in my Pinots than I do for Wraths if we're making the same wine. You know, like I said, we experiment a lot. So I've learned a lot from that experimentation over the years, and you know, I'm willing, even with my brand, to push the limits a little on stuff and experiment and poke the stick at it. You know.
Awesome. Well, it's really an adventure learning about all the new brands and taste such wonderful wines with you guys. And Kim, you have such a beautiful region to represent. So really cool. I'm real thankful that all we had some wonderful social media influencers join us tonight. Chris, thank you so much. And I want to thank all the others too. Laura, and Elle, and Tasha, and Kamely. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I see you there. I saw you sign in for a second there, Kamely. Thank you for joining us. If you want to say hi or anything, I'd love to see your face. Lucia and Olivia, thank you very much. And if you guys put your Instagram handles in the chat, everybody can check in and join your chats. That would be really fun to do as well. I'm just checking out and see how many of those I actually have, if I can give everybody the same amount of promotion. But you know, Instagram is a wonderful place to hang some photos and to get some ideas of some places to go, and vineyards to see. And a lot of these guys have large audiences, and they're always with a drink in their hand, so people are definitely interested in what they have to say. So we want to thank you guys for making time for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed the wines.
Yeah, thank you.
Zooms every Wednesday and Friday, or I'm sorry, Wednesday and Saturday, where we do some special events on Fridays. Next week, we've got our Stars of Italian Wine, and we have 12 winemakers from Italy.
Wow.
Wednesday and Saturday next week. If you go to starsofwine.com, you will see that lineup. It is a set of titans that we're going to be presenting, and you can get the tasting kits, 2 tasting kits delivered to your home for about $100, and taste along. Or you can do the whole bottle kits. That's a case of wine. If you got a Coravin, that's a really great idea. Let me just show you one little thing that we have to share. Our calendar is found at zoomintowine.com. Just wonder if I can get that share button to work. There we go. And there's our Stars of Italian Wine. We've got Jeff Cohn, maker.
Yes, Jeff Cohen. Woo!
Yeah, buddy.
He's one of my favorites.
And then Helen Keplinger is going to join us.
She's an awesome person.
Nathan,
Love her.
yeah, she's really cool. We're going to be tasting with my family with Beekeeper on the 6th as we celebrate a new release of our Beekeeper Zinfandel. And then Champagne Laurent Perrier on May 8th. If any of you want to join me, let me know. And then Stars of White Wine. Every month we do a Stars event, and these are really coming together to be just our showcase of tastings. And I just can't say how much fun these things are. They're just really great to get such an awesome large audience. We have close to 100 people on the Zoom, and we've got winemakers from all over the world for Stars of White Wine. Wait till you see the wine list that we're putting forward. It's going to be really exciting. We're in Santa Barbara with Kevin Law, Cotier, really jam-packed, great wines. We're going to taste my top values right now at the Merchant of Wine, where I buy wine and we promote these Zooms. We've got a different set of top value wines every couple of months that we put together, and we taste them blind, and we have a lot of fun with that. Then we're going to go to Spain and hang out with Vegas Sicilia. How cool would that be? And then we'll go up to Napa Valley and to do a little blind tasting of some blockbuster cult wines. One of them is going to be the new Realm Bard, and we just keep continuing by producing a bunch of different tastings to get your attention. So please come back and visit us again soon, and visit zoomintowine.com. And thank you for your time tonight. It's been a real pleasure, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, thank you, Ian.
You're wonderful.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
It was so enjoyable.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Couldn't get your lamb chop picture to show up, but thanks for.
We
Oh,
tried.
really? Okay, I'll tag
Hey,
the
Casey, there's the
hashtag you
Cornell
mentioned.
Bears.